I've talked about a lot of games on my channel, but I noticed there's one franchise that I've never mentioned: God of War. I love the God of War games, whether it be the Sparta trilogy or the Norse duology. But there's been something that's been really bothering me about the recent state of God of War. They recently announced that they would be doing a God of War TV show, but I noticed for some reason, even though God of War has existed for a long time, they're only adapting the recent games. And to be honest, that really annoys me. It feels like they are ignoring a part of God of War history, and I've been noticing this a lot in all the God of War stuff that's been coming out. The older God of War games do not get the same amount of love from Sony that the newer ones do. Now, I wanted to say this before I continue: I do not hate the new God of War games, even though I can feel that they fall into my least favorite genre of video game, being movie games, which Sony is so good at making. I still believe that the Norse games have really good stories. I'm super impressed with what the team did, and I'm super excited to see what future God of War games come out. Even though I have all the compliments in the world for these games, in the end, I still prefer the old games. There's no other game out there quite like the old God of War games. I mean, who else will do sex QuickTime events? And that's why it kind of upsets me that Sony is kind of forgetting about those older God of War games. Like, going back to the TV show, the story of the Norse games can really be enhanced if you know the story of the Greek games. Seeing Kratos' transition from angry dad to slightly less angry dad is really interesting and really adds on to these games. So skipping over the Greek games in general just to get to the more popular stuff is really doing a disservice to the series. I get that these older games might be harder to adapt to a TV show, but if they can adapt Fallout and a bunch of other games, then I feel like they can do justice to this. I largely believe that the reason why we're not getting an adaptation of the Greek games alongside the Norse stuff is because of Sony's insistence of this being the only God of War that exists. To be fair, I don't have a lot of proof that that is actually the case, but it's just a gut feeling that I have. I largely feel that way because the older games are not as easily accessible as the newer ones. God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok are available not just on PS5, but you can also get them on PC. Whereas God of War 1, 2, and 3 are only available through the PS Plus expansion pass. In the past, I've already talked about my problems with having games locked to subscription services. It's a pretty scummy thing to do rather than just letting the consumer freely purchase the game whenever they want. It should not be locked behind a subscription service that you're paying like, what, $100 plus in order to have? The easiest way, in my opinion, to fix this issue is if Sony just releases the trilogy as a full-on remaster that you can get on PS5 and PC. People may also suggest that the old God of War games may need a remake, but I really don't think so. In fact, I think these games still hold up to this day. I also feel, now this might be a bit of a stretch, but I feel that if they did a remake, they try to make it more in style with the Norse games rather than replicating those original games. And though some people may make the argument that they're both action games in the end, so it doesn't really matter, they are both fundamentally different kinds of games. The original God of War games are a lot more in vein of character action games rather than the more traditional kind of action games that we get now, the behind the shoulders kind of replicating the camera system of the Batman Arkham games. The older games just feel faster than the newer games. Maybe it's just me being pessimistic, but you never know with Sony. I don't know how that company functions sometimes. Once again, I think that a remaster can really help introduce new people into this game franchise that I love very much. If the newer God of War games got people into the franchise, then I think the older games can also help alleviate the worries that me and some other fans may be feeling. Maybe I'm worrying for nothing. Maybe they have something cooking for fans of the old school Greek games. I mean, there's obviously constant references to them within the newer God of War games, so obviously the team has not forgotten about them. You know, it's just my worry with Sony, because Sony can sometimes be the worst company ever, but I guess they're not the worst company ever. And once again, I do not hate the newer games. Any game that can acknowledge PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale gets a win in my book.
Brother, I've heard my share of stories about your homeland, but I've also heard that you once fought in a tournament.
I fought in many contests.
But this particular one, I heard you did battle with beasts, scoundrels, princesses, the undead, automatons, and history's greatest musician. That's not true, is it?
I would not speak of this.
Fair enough, brother.
But yeah, this was just a video of me rambling about my potential worries for the future of this franchise that I love. If you think I'm going crazy, leave your thoughts in the comments below. This video is also a holdover for my next bigger video, so stay tuned for that. And the moral of today's story for this video is always fear big corporations. Okay, thanks, bye.
Can I have please Kratos? I want Kratos. Kratos.
Depends on the weapon and the man.